What's up, y'all? Today I'm going to do my top 10 favorite MLB players that are not currently playing. So they've retired. As you can see, I'm not very old. So a lot of these players, I wasn't alive when they were playing, or if I was very young and didn't remember. There's a couple of these guys on the list that I do remember. They've just retired in the past couple of years. There aren't many, but there are a few. Now, a lot of these players, because I wasn't alive when they were playing, I've learned about them through mainly baseball cards. I've also read some books, watched some movies, watched some documentaries on these players. This is how I became fans of them. I have a lot of favorite current players, so maybe I'll do a top 10 on those guys, like an updated one. But for now, let's get into my top 10 favorite non-current MLB players. Before we get to this list, I'm gonna have some exempt players from this list, and these guys are Montreal Expos. Montreal Expos, my dad's a Montreal Expos fan. I am a big fan of these Expos guys, but I didn't want to litter the entire list with them. So the players that I would put on here, but I don't want the entire list to be Expos. Gary Carter, for sure, Andre Dawson, Tim Raines, Tim Wallach, Larry Walker, Pedro Martinez, even Dennis Martinez. I love the Expos. I just didn't want to make the entire list Montreal Expos. The list is mainly legends. There's a couple players in here that are really personal, and some they aren't like big names. So what we'll get to it starting here with number 10. I have Torrey Hunter. Now, Torrey Hunter was an outfielder for the Minnesota Twins, outfielder for the Detroit Tigers. I liked him when he was with the Detroit Tigers, because one time when I was a little kid, my baseball team, we got to go to the Rogers Center, and actually we got to go through like the Tigers like dugout kind of thing, and we saw Torrey Hunter taking batting practice. As we walked by, he gave us all high fives. One of the coolest moments of my young life, I guess. And so that's why he's coming in at number 10. And number 9, I have Cal Ripken Jr. Cal Ripken Jr. I love shortstops. He's one of my favorite shortstops of all time. A reason I really like him is because he wrote a lot of these books, as many former major leaguers do. But I really like these books. They weren't like documentaries about him, but he actually created stories about little league teams. I really liked it. And then his career, I love that he has the consecutive games record. When you look at how many consecutive games he actually played, it's like 16 straight seasons. It's pretty crazy. At number 8, I have Derek Jeter. Now, a lot of people are Jeter fans. I remember his final game in New York. I was maybe like 12 at the time. There it was 2016, I think. Derek Jeter is a player that just so many people love. Another shortstop player that, I mean, I'm not going to compare myself to Jeter, but I think my playing style in real baseball is similar to Jeter's skill set. Wasn't comparing myself to Jeter. But we'll move on to number 7, Roberto Alemar, Blue Jays legend. I'm a big Blue Jays fan. The only Blue Jay in the Hall of Fame. This is one of the only other MLB players I've met. I've met Torrey Hunter. I've met Roberto Alemar. Those are like the 2 major leaguers I've met. Now, Roberto Alemar, it was in that same season. We got really lucky in that one season. I played at like a pretty high level, and Roberto Alemar kind of came to our team, and it was kind of like a practice. So there was a whole bunch of teams in our league, and he came and he ran like a little one-day camp thing. It was amazing. I have a signed baseball, a signed cleat, a photo. My little brother got a photo with him. I didn't. But I was young, so it wasn't quite, I don't know, it's hard to kind of put it in like perspective, because I was maybe like 11 or 10 years old. But still, Roberto Alemar, Blue Jays legend. I've got to meet him. It's amazing. That's why it comes at number 7. And number 6, it's a personal pick. It's Vernon Wells. As a little kid, Vernon Wells was my favorite player. I don't know why. I was just like a little kid, and I loved Vernon Wells. Another great Blue Jay. So yeah, Vernon Wells, great player. I was a big fan of him as a little kid. And now we'll get into top 5. It's not a Blue Jay. It's Carlos Gonzalez. Now, I loved those Rockies teams when I was a little kid. It was him and some other players that might make this list later. But Carlos Gonzalez, Cargo, was just one of my favorite players. An amazing left-hand swing. It was so much fun to watch. He had a great arm, a great defender. I really liked Cargo. At number 4, it's Bo Jackson. One of the few kind of 90s players on this list. Big fan of Bo Jackson, one of the greatest athletes of all time. I remember watching the 30 for 30 on Bo Jackson, and that's what made me a really big fan. Guy was amazing. He had an absolute just cannon of an arm. Absolute amazing player for both the Raiders and the Kansas City Royals. Big fan of Bo Jackson. And number 3. It's Jose Bautista. Yes, one of the few Blue Jays from those 2015-2016 teams that I loved that is actually retired. I don't think he's still on a team. He's trying to make a comeback as a pitcher, but I love Bautista, the bat flip against the Rangers, everything. He had such a great personality. A guy that went from one of the worst players in the league with the Pittsburgh Pirates to one of the best players in the league with the Toronto Blue Jays. He hit 50 homers one year. Love Jose Bautista. At number 2, I have Ken Griffey Jr. Kind of like Jeter, so many players like this guy. I'm one of those fans as well. The swing man, just like the logo, all that. He was an amazing player. One of the greatest center fielders of all time. One of the greatest players of all time. So much swag. Love Ken Griffey Jr. Coming in at number 1, my favorite non-current player. My second favorite player of all time. My favorite player of all time is Dansby Swanson. But my second favorite player of all time is the number 1 player on this list, and it is Troy Tulowitzki. Yes, I mentioned him with Cargo there as Rocky players. I just loved Troy Tulowitzki. I was a big fan of those Rockies teams, like I said. And then he came to my Blue Jays in 2015, 2016. They had those playoff runs. I was such a big Tulo fan. Just the defense, his whole demeanor. He was a pretty solid hitter. Loved Tulo. I loved all the little things. Like, he couldn't throw. Normally, he always had to throw like on the run. He used the same glove like his entire career, and then it broke. Like, the webbing just snapped because it had been used for like 10 years. It finally snapped in Toronto. Big fan of Tulo. He comes in at number 1. If you guys want to know some players that are kind of close to making this list, I got on here Gary Sheffield, Ricky Henderson, Mark McGuire, Barry Bonds, Brett Laurie. I like Brett Laurie. I mean, we got him in that. We traded him and Kendall Graveman for Donaldson. Pretty good trade. Jackie Robinson, Roberto Clemente as well. Those players just didn't quite make the list. I had some more personal reasons for a guy like Torrey Hunter. So that's my list on my top 10 favorite MLB players that have already retired. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm out. Peace.